Hello everyone, and thank you all for joining us today for our Top Social Recruiters live webcast. My name is Isabel Pryor, and I'm on the Talent Solutions team here at LinkedIn based in our Sydney office. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items. You're all muted by default, so if you have any questions or any comments throughout the presentation, please send them through to me in the Q&A box. You see a little Q&A tab at the bottom. So just click that, send me through a question, and we'll have a dedicated time. Most importantly, we will be sharing the live webcast, the recording from the live webcast with all of you after the session. So keep an eye out in your inbox for an email in the coming days. And now I'm happy to introduce you to today's presenter, Wendy Hertman, Customer Success Manager here at LinkedIn. Hi, Wendy. Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Can you please introduce yourself and get us started?
Thanks, Izzy. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. My name is Wendy Hertman, and I'm a Customer Success Manager at LinkedIn here in Sydney. And I partner with some of our larger enterprise-based customers, really around maximizing the value of their LinkedIn solution. And I'm delighted to be here to celebrate and elevate our Australian New Zealand top social recruiters. So being social is second nature for successful talent leaders. So this is a pretty bold statement. The recruitment function has seen a strategic shift on how it adds value to organizations. Our latest research reveals that recruiting teams today define success not only by volume-based metrics, but by candidate experience, the quality of talent they attract, and hiring manager satisfaction. And this has certainly emphasized the importance of social recruiting. So with this shift, social recruiting is no longer a desired strategy. It's a must-have component to a TA plan. So LinkedIn surveyed over 500 recruiters and TA leaders across APAC, and the research revealed that without social recruiting, 52% of recruiters in Australia, Hong Kong, and Southeast Asia said their pipeline would suffer. 46% said the quality of candidates would drop, and 43% said their hiring costs would be negatively affected. Social recruiting is a must-have. It needs to be part of your recruitment strategy and has changed the way companies attract talent. Communicating with candidates via social media is key for recruiters, with 54% staying in touch on social throughout the hiring cycle. And it's not just about that initial outreach. The majority use social channels to stay in touch and keep the candidates up to date and warm throughout the hiring process. And a big part of social recruiting is communicating an organization's employer brand. We talk a lot about this at LinkedIn. What is it like to work at that company? What is the company culture like? And who would I be working with? This is what those prospective candidates want to know. It's not only about sharing your open roles, but also updates about company and culture. In our survey, we found that successful recruiters share twice as many company updates than unsuccessful recruiters. So social recruiting should be second nature for talent professionals, and it should play a key role in your talent acquisition strategies. So our agenda today. Lucy McDonald from our Insights team is here, and she's going to explain how we compile the top social recruiting list, the methodology, and what factors are key to be a top social recruiter. Show you who made the list in ANZ. And then most importantly, we're going to hear from 4 of our 5 top ANZ social recruiting. Welcome, guys. We'll have a panel discussion, and you can hear from them about their social recruiting strategies, and you'll hopefully walk away with some good tips and tricks to bring into your own day-to-day recruiting activities. You get to hear from the experts. And at the end, we are going to open up to have some time for Q&A. So as Izzy referenced, please feel free to chat through your questions, and we'll hopefully have some time at the end to answer them. So now I'd like to hand over to Lucy.
Thank you very much, Wendy. So I'm here today to walk through how we compile the top social recruiters list. By way of quick introduction, my name is Lucy McDonald, and I'm part of the Insights team here at LinkedIn. And our team's really responsible for empowering professionals to make data-driven decisions. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be walking through the methodology for the top social recruiters. So that includes both how it works, why we've chosen this methodology, and how you can use it to succeed in your social recruiting strategies. So we've utilised the LinkedIn Recruiter Index,
It's a metric developed by LinkedIn to measure a recruiter's success on LinkedIn, as well as other key engagement metrics across the platform to show social usage and success. For those of you that haven't heard of the LinkedIn Recruiter Index, I'll delve in a little deeper in the next few slides about how you can succeed with that metric. But before I highlight the relevant time period used to calculate this index. So we've chosen between January 2016 and December 2016 with a minimum of 6 months worth of recruiter usage. What we've done there is really ensure that we're capturing recruiters who are performing on a consistent basis. So now a little bit more about the LinkedIn Recruiter Index itself. It really measures how effective you are at building your professional brand, finding qualified candidates, engaging with your candidates, and managing your talent pool. And typically what we're seeing is our top recruiters have a LinkedIn Recruiter Index score of at least 80+. So that means compared to other recruiters, they're three times more likely to have impacted hires through InMail. An impacted hire is someone that received your email and then started at your organisation within 12 months. 71% higher candidate acceptance rate. So that means candidates are 71% more likely to respond to your InMail outreach. And that typically happens when you're really relevant and engaging. They're also seeing 13 times more profiles added to their talent pipelines. And a strong talent pipeline provides you with a captive audience for you to reach out with your employer brand message. So, building back on that LinkedIn Recruiter Index, those 4 key categories of build, find, engage, and manage. So building is really about establishing a professional presence on LinkedIn with a complete profile and also content. So this is first and foremost ensuring you have a complete profile. So it's having a professional picture, filling out that summary about yourself, what your expertise is and your mission and values, because often you're the first point of contact for a candidate with your organisation. So it's an opportunity to not only credentialise yourself, but also to share a little bit about your employer's brand as well. And secondly, it's about sharing your point of view by leveraging LinkedIn's publishing platform, and to ultimately be seen as an expert in your field. So that could be writing long-form posts, sharing your company updates, showcasing your own interests or expertise in the industry that you're recruiting for, and of course, again, sharing your employer brand as well. The second bucket is finding qualified quality candidates. This is really bread and butter for most recruiters on the recruiter tool. So it's about efficiently identifying qualified candidates using the search and research tools on Recruiter. So that's basically ensuring you're logging in on a regular basis, searching for profiles, and doing the number one thing that we do on LinkedIn, which is viewing profiles of potential candidates that you're interested in. That's really about finding out what's interesting for them, what it is that caught your eye about their profile, so that you can reach out to them with really engaging material. And that takes me to the third point, engaging to increase your response rate. So engaging with candidates with personalised conversations. So really letting those candidates know what caught your eye about their profile. That personalisation helps you to drive relevance and engagement and really drive that response rate and acceptance rate of your outreach right up, so that you can connect with them, continue with their conversations with them, and reach out to their networks as well. And last but not least is managing an efficient talent pipeline. So that's really collaborating and organising your work to maximise team effectiveness and efficiency. So when I'm talking about efficiency, I mean sharing project folders with other individuals on your team and your hiring manager as well, so they can see who's in your talent pipeline and how the process is progressing. And secondly, this is really your chance to stay top of mind with that talent in your talent pipeline. So regularly posting LinkedIn status updates that they'll see, continually keeping them warm so that when you do have the right opportunity, they're really receptive to your message. So ultimately, it's about engaging members on our LinkedIn platform, because at its core, social recruiting is about building those relationships and keeping that talent warm. Really, so you can share your authentic employer brand story and also credentialise yourself as well. So on that note, I'm going to hand it back to Wendy.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much, Lucy. That's certainly some really interesting insights there around how we have compiled the list and the methodology. But now comes the exciting part. We'd like to announce our top social recruiters in the Australian, New Zealand market. So congratulations to our top social recruiters. You can see there's a real mix of recruiters and larger organizations. A couple of call-outs, Daniel Yip from WSP, Emma Lyle from OFX, Joe James from Xero, and Joan Wong. Certainly a really big call out to Joan. She's actually ranked our #1 and has won the last 2 years in a row. So a big congratulations to Joan for that amazing achievement. But congratulations to all of our top social recruiters. But wait, there's more. And I've personally worked with a few of these top social recruiters, and I know how truly they do embrace social recruiting. So congratulations to Kathy from Woolworths, Christy Maltby from Centre Group, Tanya from Commonwealth Bank, Scott Baker from Gilbert and Tobin, just to name a few. But a big congratulations to all of our winners. This is an amazing achievement. Congratulations and well done. And we have created a microsite, so Izzy's going to put in the chat the details of our microsite, and we'd absolutely encourage you to go onto the microsite and view more information about our top social recruiters. So congratulations. But now we'd like to move to the panel discussion. So I'd like to welcome, we have 4 out of the 5 top social recruiters in the room with me today. So I'd like to introduce Angie Shaharda from Rickett Van Keyser, RB, Courtney Robinson from Leo Burnett. We've got Louise Walsh from Atlassian and Richard White from SNEC. So welcome, guys. I'm certainly delighted to be joined by you today. And first of all, a big congratulations. So
thank you, Angie.
So look, I just thought we would start the conversation with a bit of a round table. Would love for you to introduce yourself and tell the audience about maybe a couple of the roles that you would recruit or the types of roles that you would recruit, and also what makes you a social recruiter. I'd love to hear it from you. Should we start with you, Courtney?
Yep, definitely. So I am Courtney Robertson. I am a talent manager based out of Leo Burnett, which is we're a creative solutions company in the advertising and marketing industry. Leo Burnett actually is part of the broader Publicis Communications network, and within that network we have sister agencies, Saatchi & Saatchi and Marcel, and my role is to help out with talent acquisition across the whole group nationally. The types of roles that we are always looking for are in the creative space, so creative roles, digital roles, social, strategy and production. So we're always looking for people in that communications field. I think what makes me a social recruiter, I, like a lot of the guys in this room, I think I'm a social native. I guess reflect on what Wendy said about social being second nature, and I think it is definitely second nature to me, and I'm constantly connecting with people and always trying to build on my network, and I think that's a big part of social recruiting, is always looking for opportunities to network with people both online and offline, and I think LinkedIn does a really amazing job of removing those geographical barriers so that we can connect with amazing talent across the globe that allows us to build the best networks for our companies.
Great, that's great. Certainly great to hear. Thank you, Courtney. Angie, over to you. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. So my name is Angie Shaharda. I work at RB, or Rickett Van Keyser as we're formerly known. I am the talent acquisition manager there, and I just hired someone new into my team last week, so now we're a big team of 2. So we're a consumer goods company, so we do products mainly within the health, home and hygiene sectors. So our brands are Nurofen, Strepsils, all the way through to Harpic toilet cleaner, Finish. So lots of different brands across lots of different categories. The types of roles I recruit, we are mainly a sales and marketing business, so there is a lot of sales and marketing roles that I do recruit, but of course there's the support functions like supply, finance, regulatory affairs, so quite a varied that I do recruit for. Mm-hmm. In terms of what makes me a social recruiter, I would like to say that I'm a self-confessed stalker. So I look at a lot of profiles online, and I'm always sort of sharing things on there, whether it's what one of the awards that the pharmacy team won, for example, or what's happening in our team when someone new has joined, or anything that really people can engage with, whether it's
Oh, great. Thanks, Angie. Louise, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Wendy. My name is Louise Walsh. I am a senior technical recruiter with Atlassian. Most of the roles I hire for are within our engineering space, so everything from kind of mid-level engineers right up to senior engineering directors. I also try my hand from time to time at some non-technical executive roles, so the likes of heads of finance and that kind of stuff. So I've been lucky to have quite a broad scope over the last year and a half at Atlassian. I guess what makes me a social recruiter is I started my career as a sourcer. So I started with no applicants and no sources. So I've always been in the habit of going to LinkedIn and relying on headhunting to get the best talent. I have a belief that the best people aren't necessarily sitting on the market applying for jobs. So I think in order to access the best talent, you need to be social. You need to be out there mapping out your network and getting in touch with people.
That's great. Yeah. Thanks, Louise. Nick, last but not least.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nick Fisher-White. I look after recruitment for SMEC. We're a civil design engineering firm, so civil and structural engineering roles, all the way from graduate up to senior head ofs. Look after the corporate function as well. In regard to social, what makes me a social recruiter? I think it's not just using online channels to recruit, but also sharing what your company's all about, what the people that work for you are all about, what the projects you work on are all about. So I suppose knowledge sharing with the external sort of candidate pool or potential external candidate pool.
Great. That's really interesting. I know, we talk about a lot around having a strong employer brand. How important is having a strong employment brand to your TA strategy, Nick?
I think it's very important. When I first joined SMEC, we had a very strong employer brand, but I think the way we promoted it externally and the channels that we promoted it on were missing. I think, in terms of engaging with passive candidates, they're not always on the lookout, but they are sort of interested in relevant articles or content that they can relate to. And I think sort of sharing that along with the EVP of your company, I sort of have a massive effect on our recruitments, definitely, in terms of engaging with our passive candidates.
Great to hear. Courtney, what about you? What are your thoughts on the employment brand having a strong role to play in your TA strategy?
Yeah, I would throw it out there and go as far as saying it's the most important thing for us with our talent acquisition strategy. So I think having a really strong employer brand allows us to attract and retain the best talent in the industry. I think for us it's all about making sure that at whatever touch point people are interacting with our brand, they understand our brand values, our vision, where we're going, and also the work that we do. The work in a creative industry is obviously really important, and that's what attracts the best talent to us. So they want to know about our in terms of creativity. So we share that. We share that on our website, on our LinkedIn channels, on social media, so people know how we're going creatively. They know when our staff have amazing new achievements, and they just generally know what our brand is doing. So it really helps us in terms of, I don't think I get too many rejections in terms of my emails, because people know our brand, and even if they're not actively looking, they'll always, still accept our emails and be willing to engage with the brand because they know of it. And we actually have some of the highest engagement scores probably in the world at Leo. So 92% of our staff say that they feel proud to work with our agency versus I think the industry average is about 79%. So I think really promoting a strong employer brand really helps us.
Great to hear. Great to hear. I made reference to 54% of recruiters say that the talent pipeline was thin out without social recruiting. Do you agree with that statement, Louise?
Yeah, absolutely. So last year, 85% of my hires were directly sourced. So vis-a-vis, if I hadn't been using social channels and I hadn't been using LinkedIn to headhunt talent, I would have made 85% less hires perhaps. On a more practical note, I find that by going out there and by headhunting candidates and by starting conversations with candidates that we may not hire today, but we may hire down the line, and making people aware of our offerings, that's how we can control the top of the funnel. So for example, for me, if I think about applications are very variable. They can go up and down. And how I can ensure that I'm consistently providing good candidates to the business is by being proactive and going out there and being social.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Angie? What are your thoughts on that statement?
I'd have to agree with Louise quite a bit also. So many times I've gone directly to market and I've just advertised the role, and you sort of get a feel in the first 2 or 3 days what the candidate response is like. And if I'm not getting that response from active people that are on the market, that's where LinkedIn Recruiter would kick in, and I'd really need to use that to source people that may be proactively, or they're just I'm open to having a chat, and you never know if it's a good enough offer. They do sometimes come over, but also I think because I am very social across our across the LinkedIn channel and making sure that we do post a lot of updates. A lot of people don't know our business, so without that social recruiting, people are not maybe aware of us. So now that I've done that a lot more, people are like, oh, I heard you're moving to the CBD, can I talk to you? Or so it's all those posts that I do put up and say, we're moving here, if you're open to having a chat. People are a bit more, they may, like Louise said, may not necessarily be active right now, but we could recruit them, in 3, 6, 12 months down the track when, they may be looking. Yeah. So I definitely agree with that statement.
And I'd be curious to know, how much time do you guys spend on social media? How much time do you spend sending emails, posting content, searching and connecting with people? And maybe, Angie, you could answer that one for me.
So I think like everyone else in the room, I spend a lot of my time on LinkedIn. It's part of when I turn my laptop on the day, my Chrome just loads up when it's the third tab across. So I'm on there every single day. I think LinkedIn is super important. I'm always wanting to see what's happening, what the updates are, etc. I'd probably say there isn't been a day, I think, that I've gone to work and I haven't logged on LinkedIn. And I pretty much use it across almost every single role that I have recruited for. So I think I do spend quite a lot of time on there. I'm quite comfortable with the tool, so I think it's paid off. So, no, I do spend quite a bit of time on there.
Excellent. What about you, Louise?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Angie said. I think LinkedIn is fantastic for things like keeping an eye on my network, keeping an eye on candidates I know I'm interested in, if they've made a move, if they've posted an update. Even if they've updated their profile with their experience, sometimes that means they're starting to think about making a move, and it might be a good time to contact them. In terms of actively, I don't think about it in terms of time. I prefer to think about activity. So, for example, I like to ensure that I'm in the top 10% most viewed people in my company. And if I'm not, I know that I'm not doing enough with my network. I need to get more content out there, and I need to be more proactive. The other metric I look at is on LinkedIn Recruiter on reports. I like to make sure I'm above 35% response rate at all times. If I'm not, if it drops below that, I need to revise my strategy and see, am I reaching out to the right people? Is it relevant? So I look at the metrics in terms of activities more so than the time, but I agree with Angie that I'm on LinkedIn every day.
And on your phone, and on everything.
Certainly some really good tips there as well in terms of understanding some of your metrics and things to work towards as well. Louise, curious to know how you keep your pipeline warm. We get asked a lot, this question a lot by our customers, and curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that I like to do is whenever a candidate responds to me, I save their response as a note on LinkedIn Recruiter. So, for example, if I mailed Courtney today and Courtney said, oh, I'm going away travelling for a year, I would leave her note as her responsible note, and then in 12 months' time, when I loop back to Courtney, I set a reminder, I can send her a really personalised, really tailored mail and be like, hey Courtney, I hope you enjoyed. And I find that's really, really effective because people then think, oh, she actually cares, she understood what I said last time, it's not a canned response.
And I'd be pretty desperate for a job after a year travelling.
After you'd spent all your savings on your travel. The other thing I guess I try to do is I try to follow up with people, not every day or anything, but 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Like for example, I just closed an offer today from a candidate that declined us in November of 2016. So examples like that, you just keep in touch with people, not invasively, but just, hey, you know, you're still on our radar. The door is still open for you at Atlassian when the time is right.
That's great, and certainly some good use of LinkedIn functionality as well. So love to hear. What about you, Nick? How do you keep your pipeline warm?
I agree with Louise. It's regular contact, really, and not just, you know, with active seeking candidates, but passive candidates as well. But I think it's not just approaching them about roles. It's maybe sharing content that you know that will be of interest to them. And this must probably fallen on some deaf ears, but you know, in the civil engineering space, we have a business called transport modeling. So it's when you sort of design big cities, how they'll work in terms of the infrastructure and stuff like that. And we have someone within the business that's, you know, written a lot of journals, a blog. Whenever he posts something, I share it with specific individuals that I know have said no to me in the past, but see him in high regard and like what he publishes. So I push it out to them, and I've had good, I suppose, response from that in terms of people actually coming over and wanting to meet him, and I suppose that's how the sort of interview process starts.
That's really great to hear. I think being able to leverage your hiring managers and the people within the business as thought leaders, I think, can be really powerful. I'm curious to understand it, and Courtney, maybe you can answer this for me. How on board are your hiring managers and leaders with social recruiting? And can you share any tips on getting them on board if maybe they're, if maybe they're struggling to sort of see the value?
Yeah, I think I'm fairly lucky in our industry that our hiring managers are very on board with the world of social recruiting. I think I'm in an industry of oversharers. I think everyone's very active in that space, which is great, but they're also very busy. So it's just about our sort of team taking the time to sometimes pre-write stuff for them to share, and really basically, I guess, giving them the tools that they need so that they can help promote the roles to their networks, and also, giving them tips in terms of making sure that they're and also making sure that they are actively helping you in the recruitment as well, because people want to know a lot about the hiring manager as well as the talent team when they're looking for new roles. We also have a pretty generous cross-agency finder's fee, and I think that helps the strategy in terms of getting people on board, and that makes them more open to sharing it through their social channels and through LinkedIn.
Good motivation there.
Yeah, very good.
Andy, what about you? How do you sort of work with your hiring managers in the world of social?
So our business is on the other side of the spectrum compared to Courtney's. When I came on board, being the social recruiter that I am, I was ready to get on there and promote our brand and do all these sorts of things, and everyone just looked at me like I was talking in another language when I mentioned LinkedIn. So what I did was, whenever we either advertised a job or I had a role out in the market, I'd send the hiring manager like an email. I developed this template essentially where it says, hey, I've just shared your job on LinkedIn, why don't you jump on there and share? And a lot of them are like, oh, can you tell me exactly? So then I put them a step-by-step, log on here, this is the script, this is what you'll see in this section, right, here's the link for the role, write what you're looking for. And after I've been there now just over 18 months, it's getting a lot better. So people are responding and saying, oh, people are looking at my profile on LinkedIn a little bit differently. So I think they have come a long way. And the other thing I think which has helped a lot is we've run LinkedIn Lunch and Learn sessions. So we did 2 workshops at the end of last year, and they had a really positive response. So people were like, what's the point of updating my LinkedIn profile? I don't want to be headhunted or whatever. And I'm like, okay, but think about the employer brand. People might want to, if they see the progression you've had within our business and they see what role you hold, they might be a bit more interested to understand, who you are, especially when they come in for interviews. And that way as well, when I do send candidates interview confirmations, I've got a little link as well for them to view the hiring manager's profile so they can get a bit more of a feel for them. And the last thing I do is I share, whenever we're maybe proactively sourcing, I also send them maybe a list of candidates to review through LinkedIn Recruiter, and they're like, wow, this tool's so great. I can, rate them as great, good, or poor, or whatever. So I think if you involve them, they get a little bit excited because they're getting a bit of attention. But yeah, that's sort of the methods I've used to get them on board.
No, that's great. There's certainly some really good tips for anyone listening on the call, and it's certainly some patience has paid off, and giving them access and sort of teaching them the ways. Certainly some good tips. So thank you for sharing that. So I just wanted to. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Slide. Hear a success story. So I'd love to just go around the room and just maybe start with you, Louise. Can you give us a success story around social recruiting?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that I like to do with my hiring managers at the start when we're kicking off a new role, especially if it's a niche role, is I book in some time for us to source together. So I start whiteboarding it up and I say, okay, what does this person look like? Tell me the persona you want. Tell me exactly the kind of person you want to hire. The first question is, does this person already exist in our business? If yes, great. We can use that as a template. So in this particular scenario, I was working on a head of finance role and I was dealing with one of our VPs in the US. So we were having this conversation and he was saying, oh, well, my ideal candidate has these 17 attributes. So obviously I was a little skeptical. I was like, okay, let's draw up a quick Boolean and see does this person exist. So I built a Boolean string and we got one profile. And the VP said, yeah, no problem, let's just hire that guy. So I said, I'll see what I can do, but that doesn't always work. We don't always have a one in mouth and one hire rate. Luckily, in this case, we did. So I emailed.
That's rare.
It was somewhat of a recruiting miracle. But I emailed the one candidate that emerged from the search, and he works at Atlassian now. So long as the again, we'll be fine.
Thanks, Louise. What about you, Courtney?
I think my success story is probably similar in terms of a bit of a LinkedIn miracle. So we had a very tricky role where we needed someone who was a social strategist but also had a media background. And also, we also needed them to be have an account management profile. So we kind of needed a 3-in-1 miracle person. I posted the role on the LinkedIn job slot, and I think maybe half an hour later, the first person that applied was the perfect candidate. She was actually living in Melbourne but happened to really want to move to Sydney. And we sort of did a couple of interviews and she was hired and has been a superstar in our business ever since. So, it was definitely the LinkedIn gods shining down on us with that one. And I think it was a good use of the LinkedIn jobs ads, which we definitely utilised quite a bit.
Great. What about you, Nick?
I suppose mine was, we had a massive project that we went to tender for, and we were one of 3. We were lucky enough to actually win the tender. But before we did that, we sat down with the hiring managers, set up sort of workforce planning and the people that they want working on the project, people sort of external market. So we built up those talent pools. As soon as we won the project, we worked with the marketing team to put together a branding sort of quick link that we could send about the project, the timing, what success story it was, so on. And then we started working our way through sharing the content, saying, why don't you come work on this iconic project? We had great success through that. engineers tend to jump around depending on the big projects that when it's all about the projects that they work on. So we utilised that, and we managed to fill all the heads on the project without using any agencies, which was the first time in a while.
Great success story. Angie, what about you?
Yeah, so I had a role come up in our business that is sort of like rare. So a lot of people either stay in this role for a very long time or don't. We just don't have a lot of turnover. It's a very small team of 3, and they're quite stable. And, you know, as any role, you think, yep, I'm going to recruit this directly, no big deal. It's going to take me normal time to fill role. And I advertised the role. I didn't get a great response of people. And then I went to LinkedIn Recruiter, didn't get a good response. Gave the role to 2 agencies. They struggled. Everyone's on struggle. Any sort of good candidates for what we were looking for. And this role was literally keeping me up at night. Like, first thing I think about, and last thing I think about, and it was getting to probably about the 6-month mark where I think we had 230 applicants apply. We went through maybe 40 shortlisted. I think we interviewed 12, and I thought, one more time, I'm just going to jump on LinkedIn and just maybe try a different Boolean string and see if I can just find that, that rasp in the that diamond. Had a little search, found the perfect person, and I was convinced, I was like, oh my God, I've got this person. The hiring manager was also getting a bit impatient, rightly so. So I forwarded her the profile on LinkedIn, and she said, yeah, let's bring her in. So we brought her in. We had a second interview because she was traveling the next day after that by Skype because she couldn't come back into our office. And by the 3rd day, I think it was like a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we had made her an offer and she accepted. So a lot of relief, but LinkedIn Recruiter came in and saved the day. So
timing is everything.
Exactly.
Sometimes
it is. So yeah.
Angie, I'd be curious to know what does success look like in your role? Do you have any specific sort of KPIs that you need to sort of work towards?
So we've got the standard sort of time to fill roles, which are standard across our business from a local perspective and a global perspective. But we've also introduced a piece around proactive sourcing so that although there may not be some ready-to-go candidates right now, hiring managers across doing proactive interviews, and they're like, oh, what's the point? I don't have a role. But I'm like, well, what if you speak to them, you might like them, and you might think when this role comes up, they might be suitable. So we've set a KPI of 3 proactive interviews, give or take per month, depending on availability and what other reactive roles we have available. And also, we've introduced this new tool where once we've hired someone after 12 months, we then assess their talent rating to see, are they someone who will be promoted, are they high potential, are they future potential, and so there's also that sort of, we just track those stats and see other people resigned in the first year, have they been promoted, what was their performance rating. And the last one is emails, so just the response from emails, and I think our it's sitting around 68% across the business. So I think if you go higher than that, it's extremely good, and then anything sort of in that space is not too bad. So around mainly emails and time to hire, and then also the proactive piece.
It's really great to hear that that your role sort of extends across that journey of the employee as well. It's not just about sort of filling the break. So thank you for sharing. Nick, curious to understand from you how you upskill yourself in the world of social recruiting. What sort of things do you do to keep your skills fresh?
I think it's just speaking to other professionals in the industry, so other recruiters, seeing what works for them, what doesn't, attending sort of LinkedIn seminars, coaching sessions with me, which has been great, and learning on the job as well, just powering through, figuring out the tools yourself, and then looking at blogs as well.
Great, thanks for sharing. And I'm just curious to hear from the group. What has it meant to be a top social recruiter? What's the feeling been? What's it been like, Nick?
I'm over the moon about it. It's great. Had a lot of attention recently in the office. Some good, some bad. But I think it's not just for me. It's also promoted SMEC sort of out there, and I think a lot of the directors have seen the value in that as well. Particularly with our competitors, scaring them a little bit. And it's also promoting your own brand in the marketplace as well, which is great.
Yeah, awesome, great. What about you, Angie?
Yeah, it's been really positive. Similar to Nick, some people are making fun of me and calling me the social queen. No, it's been really positive. Our senior vice president in the UK shared it, and it went off, and people started sharing her, and it was just really good to sort of have someone like that recognise it. And I think as well, like very similar again to Nick, it's a good employer branding strategy. Again, I think people getting a bit more social across our business and going, how do you get that, and how do I get on there? I'm like, you're not a recruiter. So little things like that. So I think it's been really, really positive as well. I'm like, do I do my emails or do I check the notifications? But no, it's been really positive. Yeah. Awesome. What about you, Louise?
Yeah, it's been really positive for me as well. It's an honour to be included in the list, and I was surprised and delighted to make the top 5. I guess on a personal note, it's a nice feeling to be passionate about what you do and then to be told that you're doing it well. Feels good. And finally, it's nice to know, like obviously Lucy ran through the metrics earlier, but it's really good to know that I'm actually reaching out to the right people. That my emails are relevant. I'm not spamming people, and for the most part they're interested and they're responding, so that's cool as well.
And Courtney?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with Louise on that. I think it's great recognition to know that you are kind of definitely on the right track, and I think we've all been able to connect with some really great people, particularly in this room, and I think it's been really amazing of LinkedIn to put it on because it's a really good opportunity for the talent managers to connect with each other and discuss what we do and make some good learnings off each other.
Great. I think we do have one final question, but I think we're going to move to Q&A. We've got quite a few questions coming through, so and I'm certainly mindful of time, so we might just jump into the questions. Do you want to shut them out?
Yeah, great. We had a few questions coming through, so I want to give people the chance to hear from you guys. I'm just going to direct them to all of you, and whoever wants to answer them, please feel free. One question came through in terms of contacting people. Do you continue the conversation via LinkedIn, or do you go straight to a call, or what's your recommendation there?
It's Courtney here. I personally continued on LinkedIn for quite a bit of time because I find it's a really good tracking tool so that I can refer back to the conversation, and I think once you sort of get to the phase of wanting to meet them or chat with them to find out more, then I'd move it to a phone call, but I try to keep stuff on LinkedIn as much as possible because it's good to be able to track it and share it with other talent managers.
Just to add on to that, it's Angie. I probably do the same thing, but if it's a proactive role, I probably would continue on LinkedIn for a bit longer. But if it's an urgent role, they might lose interest, and it's a bit harder to get people to get involved, like be really interested in a role. So sometimes I'm like, what's your number? I'll give you a call. Just to maybe move it along. But if it's proactive, I probably would do the same thing and keep it on LinkedIn for a little bit longer to get a quicker response.
Great. Thanks. Another question that came through is, can we ask, or do we have the right to ask our own employees to update their LinkedIn profiles, or ask them to take things down that will reflect poorly on our employer brand?
Yeah, great question. It's Louise here. We ran a workshop for myself and a colleague as a project earlier in the year for interviewers. So we didn't so much ask them, but we suggested that they might like to spruce up their profile a little. And like Angie mentioned earlier, like for candidates coming in, they will obviously look at their interviewer's profile. It's really important their profile has nice, relevant content. So yeah, we have gone to particular people and said, hey, can we help you spruce up your profile, explain why it's important, and we haven't experienced any pushback from the interviewers yet. They're happy to spruce up their profiles with our help.
Great.
I think common sense does prevail. So in regards to that, if you give them all the facts and sort of figures behind it and explain why it's important, people are quite receptive to updating their profiles.
Thank you. Another question is, what does your workload look like, and how do you jump between LinkedIn, your ATS? I guess, how do you find balance in your day-to-day work?
I'll answer that.
Yeah.
I use PageUp, and for me it's very clunky. I suppose my first port of call is LinkedIn. It's just a lot smoother, keeps track of information a lot more. I can share information a lot more in regards to that. I would say I spend 70% of my time on LinkedIn and the 30% on. I think I'd only potentially add, well, as soon as a good candidate comes in, obviously you add it to your ATS straight away because you want to keep the data for whoever comes into my position sort of afterwards. But I think it is a juggling act, and I think LinkedIn are working sort of behind the scenes to sort of promote the sort of usability between the two systems. So I think you guys are working with Taleo at the moment, and Taleo's on there. And
we definitely have some things in the pipeline around that for cross-system awareness. Yeah.
Thank you. Another question. On average, how many people would you approach, or how many people would you email for one position, and then how many responses do you get? I guess that probably varies for all. Louise, do you want to?
Sure. So I think I usually estimate on a good sourcing day I would send 20 emails, but I can't stress enough it's quality more than quantity.
Yeah.
So if you send out emails to questionable candidates at the top of the funnel, you're just letting, I guess, extra noise and extra baggage into your funnel, and it's just going to waste heaps of your time. Like, you're much, much, much better off investing 2 hours to send 20 top quality emails rather than spending 20 minutes sending 20 medium quality emails, because if you email the wrong people at the start of the funnel, you're just going to waste so much time processing them the whole way through. So I would say as well as the quantity.
Yeah, and I think as well, building a really strong project when you start out, and making sure that they are all people that, I guess, if they do respond, you would want to have on board. And then I usually go with those first. Obviously, sometimes you do have to expand out your search if it's getting trickier, but I think I'd go for the best people first and be really targeted.
Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning here as well, saved searches.
Yeah.
So if I, insofar as I can, I let LinkedIn do the work for me. So if I have a good search string, I will always save it. And then as new people come into that search bucket, I'll get emails into my inbox to alert me of these new candidates. And this is fantastic. That could be, if there's 6 good candidates, great, that's 6 of my 20, and LinkedIn found them for me.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. We certainly promote that functionality, so it's good to hear that it works for you.
I think it's also important to mention as well your own personal brand. So there, if you're sort of sending a message to someone that's not relevant, it's poorly worded, you obviously haven't had a look at their profile, it's just going to look bad on you and the company you represent as well.
Right, thanks, Nick. So look, conscious of time, I'd just love to just do another quick round the room. Any final tips for those listening today on how they can make the list for next year? What do you think? Nick, do you want to?
Just using it for your sort of day-to-day recruitment activities, but also promoting your company, the people that work at that company, and just getting sort of relevant content out there to the right people, basically.
What about you, Louise?
I think my number one tip, I learned it from my old manager at HubSpot, is discipline. So I think what's really, really crucial is, even if it's not every day, making sure that you're sourcing every week, that you have a number of emails that you send every week, week in, week out, regardless of the status of your pipeline. And I think that's how I made the list, just by being consistent and being disciplined about my activity on LinkedIn Recruiter.
Great. Angie?
Yeah, going back to my oversharing, I think share. I think you should, similar to Nick, it's all about your employer brand, and I think that was what I had in mind as well when I first started becoming a bit more social on LinkedIn, because RB, people thought we were a bank or, this random companies, and I think it's getting our brand out there, so trying to promote that. And it doesn't have to be talent acquisition related, it could be business related, an update, an award, someone who's joined the team, etc.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Courtney?
I think I agree with everyone on those points. I think that would definitely help you, as well as I would take some time to sit down and really look at you are promoting your employer brand, and make sure that all the touch points are connecting and that people really understand what your brand stands for, and make sure you really live your brand in all of your interactions with people, and show off your brand's personality as much as possible, so that people feel like they know you and can have a really open dialogue with you about roles.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you so much to all of our panelists today. It's been amazing just hearing about how you go about your day-to-day and how you live and breathe social recruiting. I think it's been certainly some really valuable advice to our listeners. Thank you. Thank you to those on the call. We will send out an email with a recording from today's session as well, so stay tuned for that. And thank you. Thank you to, and congratulations to all of our top social recruiters.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.